everyone, my name is Testimony Adebi and I'm the programs manager at Tech Semester. If you're watching this video, that would mean you're either in the tech space or you want to get into the tech space. And this session is going to be about product design. If this is something that you'd want to do or transition into, I trust that you would learn a lot from this session. And today we have amazing designers here. Toby and Francis will be joining me in this conversation. Thank you so much once again for joining. Right, so I would ask Francis first, and Toby can respond to the same question after. So Francis, how has your journey been so far in UI UX? How many years? How did you start? All of those details.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Just confirm if you can hear me and see me clearly.
Yeah, I can.
All smart. So I started as a designer. I started my career in design in 2013. So I started as a designer since then, and it's over 8 years. 8 years now. I have over 8 years of design experience, and I've I've kind of explored different aspects as a designer. I started my career as a graphic designer. I transitioned into being a creative designer. Now I work as a product designer, and currently, what's it called? I'm exploring AR, VR space. I'm exploring like designing for metaverse and all. And when I started my career in 2013, um, so I think one thing that inspired me to start my design career was so around 2010 there is this BlackBerry raining, and everybody wants to do like picture collage, like everybody wants to like have picture collage. And then around 2010 I was using a phone called Nokia C1, and on Nokia C1 you can be able to like do picture collage on it. And I went online that how can I do picture collage. I saw a software called Photoshop. This was around 2010, 2011. And I went to a store where they sell the discs, and I bought the discs and I installed it on my sister's laptop. And bam, that's how I started into being a designer. So, but officially I started 2013, and since then, I've worked with companies. I've worked with companies here in Nigeria. I've worked with companies in the UK, and currently I'm working with a company in the US at the moment. And design journey has been amazing. There's been a lot of like self-taught, self-learn, and also like try to do a lot of things because the career path is not straight. So you just have to like learn as much as you can. So yeah, I think that is all you need to know. If there's anything you can ask questions and all. Yeah.
Wow, wow, I think part the BlackBerry photo collage got me. That's really an interesting story. Thank you so much for sharing, Francis. How about you, Toby? How has your journey been so far in product design?
Um, Journey for me has been kind of really amazing. Considering that I did not literally start out as a what's it called as the UX designer or maybe envisions to join into products. More for me, aside from brand design, basic graphics into branding and then transitioned into UIX and then product design along the way. So typically that was more like a journey for me, and it was quite an amazing one coming from such background. So literally for me, it's more like it's been more like a journey in the what's it called in the design world. Um, I did have an history for studying. I graduated as a student of civil engineering. Basically, I did my entire NYC pretty much in the engineering line as well. So more like graphics design side while I was in school, graduating school, picking up a UIX role, or like trying to solve out and see which part actually works for me, pick out interest for me. So that's been my journey basically, and it's been an amazing one. Seeing how far I have come in the journey. Yeah, thank you.
That's interesting. Coming from a very, very technical background to now in product design. Thank you so much for sharing that, Oluwatobi. So, okay, let me ask Toby this question first. So, what does your day look like? What are the things that you love about your job and things that you also don't like, but it's just part of the package?
Oh, okay. What is my technique? What does my day look like? I'd say my usual day right now is more of meetings, big part in research, and more like product improvement. I do like design and meetings like on the 50-50 level or 60-40 level, depending on how sadly it comes with the what's it called. Sometimes it just comes with your position. That's like typically why you're actually rising in the what's it called in the industry. I used to know of times when I would probably be in meetings 20% time and be designing like 8% of the time. But typically my 9 to 5 would be meetings and designs. Maybe split either midway or sometimes just a little bit more than each other. And that's more of like my typical day. What do I enjoy about product design? I'm just going to say building things that people love to use. That's like the most interesting and the amazing part of it, right? Building things that people get to use, people love to use, and on the other end, serving my quota to the business, which is more like the company that hires me, right? Because I have a duty one to them, and I have a duty to the customers who are actually using their products. More like make the experience. That's like envision the idea of the business and put it in the hands of the consumers or the customers, and as well make sure that the business and the customer goals really kind of aligns. Although I'd say the challenging part of it sometimes is finding that right alignment. And I think that's what makes the job really an interesting one. You really just want to find that in line where you can eat both customer and business satisfaction at the same time. So it's more like usually a rat race sometimes because it takes a lot of work trying to understand who your ideal user is. That's if there's ever any type of ideal user. And also what business model would absolutely fits the business into actually making money. Business are there in the first place to make their money, and as a product designer, it is still yet on your own list of to dos to make sure that in the best way that they can optimize the product into getting as much profit as they want to, as well as actually providing the value to bring about that profit margin. So typically that's everything on my end.
That's interesting. So the fun part for you would be, building things that people use, real people, and that would mean it's solving problems. And the not so fun part is, being able to hit that intersection between user satisfaction and at the same time money is coming in. Interesting. Okay, what about you, Francis? What does your day look like typically? And what are the things that you love about your job and the things that if you could take them out, you just like take them out the makeup and hide. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, my day to day, starting from like gym, cycling. After that, I have coffee, and after that, I love to like write out a couple of things. Like I keep I keep a routine of to do list because if I don't do that, I don't feel productive. So anything I want to do, I've been doing that since like 2017 consistently. So I keep like a routine of to do list. I write everything I want to do, and I send my stand up, like I send my stand up every day, and yeah. So when it comes to work, right? As Toby mentioned, depending on your role in the organization, where I am at the moment, I'm the lead designer, I'm design operation manager, and also the designer. And most times, he's always having meetings aligned with stakeholders, what needs to be built, what needs to be worked on, what improvements needs to be worked on, and also checking Figma for feedbacks and writing out, and also design education. Right, sometimes it might just seems like work stakeholders through your design decision making processes and why you have to do this, why you have to do that. Yeah, yeah. So I think that is what a typical day looks like. For like this morning now, a typical day is send my stand up. I'm having a meeting by 4:30, right? Um, Improve on the feedback that was given yesterday on a particular design, and I have to see how to figure that out. Like that's majorly what my day today is for today. And one thing I like about my job is I like my job so much. I have like a personal relationship with my work, which can be
I
very
can see
funny.
it in the way you're smiling, just describing
So
it.
think about like the relationship you have with your girlfriend or your boyfriend. Yeah, yeah. So one thing I really enjoy about my job is there's something we call design thinking process, right? And ability to be able to apply even that design thinking process into like your day-to-day life. That is so key, like how design thinking influence your day to day. And the major thing I like the other thing I like about my job is ability to like work on different projects and learn about different field, right? So I've worked on projects, SaaS projects, I worked on a couple of projects, and when they're talking about during the product discussion phase, I may not even know anything about the field, right? Currently, I'm working on a research too at the moment. I don't even know anything about VC, investors, accelerators, all those things. I don't know. So I have to go and read articles, do research, learn how to create use cases, user story for these people, blah 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 blah. So it's just like opening you to like a new learning, and design is just subjective as well. Um, Things I don't really like, but I'm liking is so as Toby mentioned, as you grow in your career, there are different things you look into. So for example, this happens to us as designers, right? Maybe we iterate like different options and we have like our designer favorite, right? And client or what's it called will come, your stakeholders will come, they say, ah, this cannot work, blah 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 and all. And in your head, you'll be like, I spent like 12 hours on this thing. Don't tell me it cannot work. Or sometimes it's just very hungry. But with my growth as a designer over time, so my current company, I what I do is when we start from discussion stage of every processes of product, I carry everybody along, like from for the copywriter to the stakeholders to the developer. I carry them along. So when it comes to low fidelity, I walk everybody through my design decision processes, even the other designers, so that when it comes to now giving feedback, you are seeing what I'm seeing. So I lean more on design education, like educating my team member a lot about how design works, and that has really helped me. But before my this job, it's always a struggle. Like everybody has opinion about your design, everybody has opinion about what needs to be done. But yeah, but generally, I love my work. I love my job so much. It's just people management that may want to be an issue, but I think I'm also like getting good with
Yeah,
that.
hang of it.
Yeah,
That's that's interesting. I think the fact that you also get to work with different industries, so more like gives you um let's say there's an it makes it more interesting. You're not stuck in one place and you just have to do maybe fintech apps for the rest of your life. You can also, go to another space,
there's nothing
try
bad.
things out.
There's nothing bad in
Absolutely.
anything you're saying.
I think there's nothing bad in specializing.
It's
I'm not.
just
I'm,
it's your niche. Your next
Yeah, I,
answer,
I, I, did,
like,
I
is what
did
you
not
want
say
to
there
make
was
the
any.
answer.
What?
Yeah,
Oh, but there's the
there's this.
option. There are some people that do not get that. That don't have that privilege,
Satisfaction.
to
Yeah.
go
Okay.
across different fields and still,
How
do
they
the
should
same
leave the
thing that
job
they
now and
do.
go and get another one. I don't understand.
There's some job roles, job roles. What am I saying? Job roles, yes, that don't give you that kind of flexibility. And there's one word I'm looking for, but I can't. It's just like multi. I can't find the word, but more like you have access to just try things out. Okay, I think you like the sector, but yeah, and the fact of people management too, and also because um you're building things with other people, and something that you said that stuck was people will always have opinions about your design, and somebody will always have a problem with something or something somewhere, but you're being able to, carry everybody throughout the process, and okay, at least before you get to the final destination, you guys arrive there together, not just you. The next question was supposed to is what's the salary expectation of a UI UX designer across different skill set and organizations? So Toby first.
All right. So, typically on my own end, I don't like to give one specific value. Um, but it was called it's one
Oh my
relative
god.
to hello, just to be sure that you can hear me properly.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'd say typically for me, I don't like to give specific values or range. That would more like depend on your what's it called on the market that you are in, one country, second region, or probably whatever company you're actually working for. Um, Averagely, let's say for Nigerians, you probably get something around. It depends for what's it called. For high paying companies, you might probably get something around 150 to 200 starting out. For low paying companies, you could probably get around 50 to 800 thousand naira. So that's typically what's it called. That's one more. That's like we dependent on who is hiring, what their hiring power is, and what they can actually offer. While if you're actually looking at any from international jobs, you could have as much as like 800 to 500, 800, $1,000, like in terms of what's it called, monetary compensation. That is what's it called. That's much more relatable. So I think for junior roles specifically, the best approach to actually knowing what the salary structure would be to check out industry within specific fields, more like within specific locations, countries to know what those companies are like capable of actually paying and offering to them. But there's no what's it called? There's no specific salary bandwidth as to it. Um, there might be a what's it called a literal cap which a company might be capable of actually going above. So I'm not trying to what's it called to limit them into what's it called. So more importantly, while trying to negotiate for your salary as a junior person, it's more important that you reach out to someone, one either a former staff or a staff within the current company that you're trying to apply to understand what their salary bandwidth is for that specific position that you're applying for. That will give you more like a what's it called a good value into what you can actually bargain for rather than having something top of your head. Because if you do have something top of your head and it's way above their bandwidth, you might not get the job. If you have top of your head and they can actually offer more than that value that you're actually putting out, then you are at a loss. That's typically how I take what's it called pricing and salary values to be.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for that answer and being able to um because to elaborate on it, because it depends on the organization, depends on there are so many circumstances that affects salary expectations. So my next question to Francis would be, as a UI UX designer, what tools should I be proficient with? What tools do you think
What
I
should
should
you
be able
what?
to use? What tools do you use for your work as a UI UX designer? What tools do you interact with?
Okay, so I will answer. I will say number one, skill set you need. Okay, skill set you need to have, and I also mentioned tools, right? Um, as a product designer, to be honest, you have to have sense, and
Very
because
important.
you have to have sense. I have to know when to apply your sense, because if you apply it in the wrong way, it can be foolishness. Like it can turn to foolishness, right? The first thing is you have to be good with your communication skills, right? Number one, your ideation skills is very key. Nobody knows whatever is in your head, right? Nobody is seeing what you're saying, and how they relate it with it is how you visualize it. So I have to tell people that when you're doing wireframe or when you're doing low fidelity, your stakeholders don't know what wireframe or low fidelity is, except you have a you have management that understand design. Even those ones self, they wouldn't want to see. So how do you help them see what's in your head? Visualizing it with the right component. You don't have to add color yet. Like if you are if you are trying to represent a this an image placeholder, don't just put a square, put an icon with it. Do something that will make them see that okay, this is what we are talking about. So your communication skills, both your visual communication skills and your verbal communication skills has to be in sync. And one of the things that differentiates a senior designer to a junior designer is documentation. Learn to document your processes. Um, for every design phase, that for product development phase, there are different phases, right? Documenting each of those journey stand you out a lot, and documenting feedback. So try to create like a feedback mechanism. If the company does not already have one, learn to create that. So learn to track people's responses, people's views about things, because when you are trying to make cases, right, it's good to like refer to, oh, you said this in this, right? Communication skill is very important. The other skill that is very important is psychology, understanding like cognitive psychology and maybe behavioral psychology, like understanding number one, how to sell to your team member before your even before your users, how to sell to your stakeholders, and how to sell would be in, oh, how do you communicate how do you communicate this user? How do you optimize this user experience? How do you, instead of your user taking 5 steps, how can you design it for them to take like 3 steps? So that is very key. Those skill set I mentioned, we really like. I think that's like 50% of what you need as a designer, because anybody can push pixels, anybody can push pixel, anybody can design fine UI, but not everybody can do UX. Not everybody can think. Not everybody can apply their mode of thinking very well. So once that is done, you can lay your hand on any skill set, any tools. I currently use Figma. I use Miro as well. Miro is for ideation purposes and all. I use Figma as well for prototyping as well. I use Figma. I use Fine. It's very advanced. I think I still use Spine, but most of my work now does not really do with prototyping at the moment. So um, I walk the developers through. Also, learning how to communicate with engineering is very key. Um, as a designer, I want to be caught up in, oh, this is a fine UI, this is a fine chemical. Meet with engineers, ask them, is this developable? Can this work? And so I don't really bother myself to hard interactions and all to a lot of my designs. I just meet with my developers. What can work? What do you have in your libraries that can work? So that is what I will prototype through, and that is what I will see through. Yeah, yeah. So I think I've done justice to the question.
Just a little bit more into what Francis has said. More importantly, I would say your soft skills will get you 80% of the job done. Your what's it called? Your knowledge of tools, assembly just what's it called? They are on the side. Typically talking about you applying from a company that uses Figma into a company that uses Sketch. The tool is just something you can actually just learn on the go. It's not specific, right? Just for a start, right? If you want to start, you might want to just have an hang of the most industry, what's it called? The industry acceptable tools, maybe like or the industry most popular tools. A few of them will probably be Figma, Sketch, and what's it called? Adobe XD in that possibly order, right? So you might just want to know a bit of every, right? So that you can actually fit into any environment. But there are actually so many other tools apart from those three that does design well and that does design absolutely good as well, right? So that's very much important. And as well, he did mention having a good relationship with the developer. So you need to understand the tech stack that is involved in your company. One, you just need to understand what technology you guys are using, what limitations it has, right? That would help you make informed design decisions, right? Not simply just trying to like pick up some amazing things because you saw it somewhere. There are certain limitations that comes with certain technology stack that your company use. So typically, if you are working with native code, you probably don't want to run through what's it called. If you're working with native code, it simply means you have more what's it called. You have more flexibility, maybe in terms of animations, and it now depends on which of the programming language that your developers are using to develop. Right. I'm going to use a what's it called a specific example. While developing one of the dashboards for my current company, um, typically the what's it called I was looking towards a table data set, right? To have for engineers and whatever. But at the scoping session, we did have that discussion where I showed them what kind of table I intended to use while trying to display data. And simply they just told us, oh, our tech stack library do not have that table type, right? And it was so simple that I had to now go into the what's it called, into the language documentation to look at certain what's it called, certain tables type and the data sets to which those tables can actually process. So that informs me about my what's it called, my design decisions. That gives you a top notch that like puts you ahead in actually making your design work, and also that makes you understand how to now use those tools effectively to create amazing designs. I think long before now, we would rather before what's it called native app came in, we would actually design for Android and iOS separately. So it was more important that you understand how Android basically designs would work and how iOS designs would work for you to effectively like designs for those platforms. So just more so that one of the things added advantage for you is to actually get to relate with your developers. But sadly, sometimes for juniors who probably would start out with freelance projects, you might not have some specific knowledge of what the technical staff would be to develop those projects in the end, right? Because they are simply just freelance. But it is just in your what's it called in your best interest to do something that is likely usable, right? That could work cross-platform, cross-functions, and if there actually needs to be any form of changes, it's going to be something that can actually be done. You don't for freelance projects design with what's it called in mind for let's say, oh fine, oh, there are developers who can actually do this, and they are simply just 10% of the population, and then that's what you go for. It's definitely not what's it called. It's not good on a what's it called on a designer decision level, because you're not so sure that your client will actually get 10%, like any of those 10% of those people who can actually get that to implement. So I think that would actually solve most of the issues that early stage designers would have with their developers. Communicate early, very important.
Wow, that was a lot and very, very insightful. Thank you so much, Toby. I think
Well,
my final question now would be, okay, I've made the decision to, I think UI UX is something that I would like to do. Okay. How long, what's like the average learning duration needed to attain employability?
just like again, I don't give you what's it called. I won't give a specific number.
Okay.
uh, so it's this based on commitment, based on interest, based on your work rate, you could get into your employability status between 6 to 8 months, um, or prolonged to 2 years. So, how passionate are you about it? One, um, how patient are you? Second, how determined are you to actually get to see this through? That is very important when you're actually thinking of a what's it called your design journey. So just like there is no what's it called, I'm going to probably use a non-tech example. Medical students, you could spend between 7 or keep extending your years in medical school as long as if you don't actually get to pass, right? That's the same way it is right in tech. And funny thing is this: there's no constraints to it. So the pace at which you get to to being employable is solely dependent on you and on your what's it called on your what's it called on your ability to learn fast, one, and to learn well. More importantly, you wouldn't want to actually waste time learning the wrong things because if you do learn the wrong things, then they don't hit the industry standards, right? If you learn the right things, then that means you get to employability like much more faster. And there are other factors that are involved, right? More like having a mentor. If you do have a mentor or probably someone who is kind of there to guide your hands through and most likely refer you to a what's it called to a junior role, it simply means you get to achieve that faster than someone who actually has to go it all in and all alone, right? So there are so many factors as to how fast or how slow it is for you to get to an employable state. But you only get to an employable state when you have everything ready to actually be employable. A few things that you need to have ready to be employable is one, if you are going to be a UI UX designer, your visual skills are top notch because for juniors, right, it is not highly expected for them to be gurus when it comes to research or to be like really strong when it comes to research abilities. Yeah, know the process, understand what you are supposed to do when you're actually trying to like research on products, but not necessarily be like the best or the good person at it. That's why you're a junior, right? But you need to have a good visual and a good design understanding background, right? More like you have to understand how to make design decisions, how to have good visual designs, at least to some certain level that brings you into employability. So you have to have a good visual design, you have to have a portfolio. A portfolio is definitely going to get you a job. You need to have actually worked on like let's say 2 to 3, what's it called, to 3 projects. More like have it could be group projects, could be personal projects, could be just like private project, something that you want to experiment on, but just have it down, document it, and have a portfolio of that. Then that actually brings you to that stage where you can actually apply for jobs, more like internship roles, right? To actually get you to get roles and get your employment. That's just it. But the timeline in between being able to master your design, what's it called, not really master design, right? But gets to that stage of being good enough, right, in visual design is solely dependent on your effort and how well you put yourself in line to get that. So I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add.
I think you were able to say a lot and like answered my next question. But and thank you so much for that very elaborate answer. Just to round up, for someone, I mean, it's not exactly a motivation, but some people just need to like hear something just to start and believe like people doing these things are not humans or there's something different about them that they feel like I just can't. So Francis, now, if someone wants to get started in 1 or 5 sentences, what would you say to the person?
How do you mean? Like, as you motivate them to start, I mean,
Something like
inflation
that.
will motivate them to start now. Uh-uh. If you want to make more money, come into tech. But actually, that's like great thing. But really, if you want to make more money, you want to be having like, you want different companies to be toasting you up and down inside your LinkedIn. Yeah, pick up a career in tech and also come into design. So I think the serious part would be that if you are the kind of person that love to build or design what people will love to use, products that if you think you are if you think you can change the world, right? Which everybody's trying to do. If you think literally like tech is not for everybody, right? And that's like the sad truth most people don't know. Like tech is not for everybody. But if you think tech is for you, so come
Hear
into
him.
it. And one thing I would say is come and build products that people love. Come and build products that I think one of the things that gives me joy as a designer is when I see the work I mean the product I work on, when I see a lot of people use it. And when I see people saying, "Oh, this app, Kilipo, I'll be like, I worked on that thing." And it's always interesting. So if you are an overthinker, if you are somebody that likes to solve problems, somebody that loves to arrange house very well, yeah, product design is for you. And come and apply all your skills that you've been applying to different things. Come and apply it on design. Yeah, I don't know what motivation to
That,
give
that,
you, but inflation, money will motivate you. Yeah, thank you.
that was beautiful. You don't get anything like money. Money is, I mean, money is like major motivation. But thank you for having this conversation with me.